Red 2 standing by, all for lit and in the green. Not entirely in the green, I didn't realise the zinger was there, but welcome back to Donkey Kong 64. We're making our way around a giant mushroom, trying to pick up as many bananas and do as many things as we can. We have a fair bit we can do around here in the day, somewhat understandably. We might have to come back here for a few smaller things at night, but otherwise it's not too bad. Previously, I've been talking about the natural world, because of course, what better theme should we have for a forest area? Appreciating the beauty of nature and everything that goes on is pretty important. Let's see, where's that? Oh, great. It's going to go for the switches if I go that way. Got it. Not too bad. We'll need to grab Chunky for actually going up this pathway, because we have a lot of bananas for Chunky. But of course, one of the important things to talk about is the night and day cycle. Actually, let's get Tiny. Tiny has something to do first, and we can go outside and grab her Splat. The focus on the night and day element is just sort of part of that dual world thing in a sense, which pops up along the way in video games. Bit of a dud move there, the timer starts while the cutscene's going. But we can make it fairly easily if I remember where I'm going, which I might not in all fairness. I think it's up this way. Quickly climb over this way and... Yep, got the right direction, but yeah. Night and day cycles, I suppose, have been fairly important for me when it comes, at least fairly focal for me when it comes to video games, because I've had that experience with them through the Pokemon games. I started out with the Gold and Silver, where the day and night cycle was introduced. And it was used quite well because you could catch a good variety of interesting Pokemon along the way, depending on the time of day. It's been refined since and has generally been a mainstay of the series. It didn't appear in Generation 3, which was kind of annoying, because it meant it was a harder time getting certain Pokemon. Game Freak has always had this attitude that they will wind up not using the really good ideas again. But the really, really stupid ones like roaming legendary Pokemon, those are always used, and it's a pain in the backside. But let's put that aside for a moment, because that's not what I'm complaining about. The day-night cycle added a little extra touch of realism and helps, in many games, create a sense that there is a functioning and interesting game world where characters go about their lives, at least if it's used correctly. You can have that extra bit of creativity, that sort of sense that you're connecting with the cast, as it were. It's important to do that. It just adds that little bit more, can allow for some creative game styles like the schedules that pop up throughout Majora's Mask. Being able to loop through the day-night cycle with a sort of real-time setting was done quite nicely in Ocarina of Time, and it's been, as I said, a mainstay in Pokemon. It works a fair bit into certain Zelda games. Can be helpful, can be a bit of a pain in the backside depending on what game it is, especially if you work at specific times of day, you may wind up missing certain events. But all in all, it does set up a pretty nice function for making your game feel that little bit more approachable, that little bit easier to connect with, as it were. Did I get all of those? Let's rotate the camera. I think we did. Yep. So yeah, of course it does all depend on what sort of style of game it is, but nonetheless... Is that Tiny? Ah, yep, Tiny's got another balloon she can get there, so I'll have to quickly grab that. But yeah, that winds up coming in fairly handy. It's a pretty good game mechanic. Just use it right, and it'll be a very nice touch that helps with world building. And world building is pretty vital in any game as far as I'm concerned. If there is a need for that sort of day-night cycle, put it to good use. Don't obsess too much about it though. Nighttime music will vary a little bit as well. It can often be a little bit more peaceful, or it might wind up bringing a spooky vibe like it does in this game. Just depends on what your developers want to bring and which elements of nighttime they might want to focus upon. It winds up being sort of the spooky bit here, but in games like Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, it's used beautifully to create a much more relaxing atmosphere. The fact that the game's soundtrack does change depending on the time of day is a really nice touch. It's a little unfortunate they don't have that in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but it just adds a little bit of extra unique element to Sinnoh's games, which, to be honest, is both boon and bane because, as I've said, I really don't like the fact that the Sinnoh game, that pretty much every Pokemon game seems to have just its own thing and that's it. They don't reuse a lot of those ideas, but you would not find a lot of people who'd be disappointed with Diamond and Pearl's soundtrack. It's an absolute gem. And just those extra little changes, like how much more relaxing the Pokemon Center theme becomes, that, on its own, absolutely beautiful touch. All those little extra bits that just go into making the world building for the Sinnoh games so important. But sort of day and night is sort of like, as I said, a smaller scale dual world setup because you can change how things are accessed depending on whether it's daytime or nighttime. You can also have those dual world setups where you travel between two locations. This has been fairly prominent for the Zelda series, in all fairness. Those wasps are getting to be a pain in the backside. Excuse me, just a tick. Alright, we're back. And there we are. Down and out. This is why you have homing ammo on hand because it helps alleviate being a bad shot. But back in we go, and the dual world setup is usually fairly prominent in RPGs. Like, you'll see it, you do see it a lot in the Zelda series as well. There is a door for Chunky that can only be accessed during the night, by the way. That's where Chunky's Kasplat is. Used well, that dual world setup adds a little something extra to your games, because it allows you to create some similar yet different locations. A bit of a dichotomy, as it were. You can create contrasts between the two worlds. For example, sort of how the Dark World and the Light World wound up complementing each other in A Link to the Past. How you had Hyrule of Link's childhood and Hyrule of Link's adulthood in Ocarina of Time. And in, I suppose in a broader sense, the comparison between Hyrule and Termina for Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time. There are all sorts of little comparisons you can make across different games too. Lots and lots of little touches that just help create sort of that counterpart idea, just as you've got sort of your light counterparts and your dark counterparts along the way. All depends on what sort of story you want to tell, in all fairness. But it's become a fairly common trope to have that dark world, or to really just mash two different themes together. So you might wind up in a situation where you've got like a Hailfire Peak setup from Banjo-Tooie, where you have levels that are based around different elements. Whatever you do, combining things or creating that dual world setup can make for some very interesting levels if done correctly. But at the same time, you probably don't want to rely on any sort of story writing trope too much. We don't really get a lot of dual world setups in the Donkey Kong games, but we do, on the other hand, get a lot of contrasts in how everything is put together. As I might have mentioned earlier, we have the contrast between the natural world of the Kongs and sort of the harsher, almost more industrial worlds of the Kremlings. Whoops. Okay, so they can't actually damage themselves with their own oranges. But ours are fair game. Like, you always have a contrast between sort of nature and the industrial world and that sort of sense of progress at the cost of the environment, which ties into what I was talking about earlier on. The Kremling levels are always harsher. They always have rougher environments. There is something dangerous, something slightly deadly about them. Whereas with the Kongs, you sort of get the feeling that there is a much more peaceful, natural world to things. It's way more relaxed. I mean, you just have to look at the comparison between the worlds of Kong Isle and the worlds of Krem Isle in this game. You have a notable contrast. Like, you have Jungle Japes, standard jungle level, pretty enjoyable, pretty basic, gets you ready for everything. It's the beginner world, basically. Then you have Krem Isle, then you have Angry Aztec, which requires a bit more skill, but it's not quite as harsh. It's still a fairly easy to navigate level. Things get a bit tougher, a bit bleaker. The music is more sinister. With the Frantic Factory and Gloomy Galleon. Touches like that. And then you've got Fungi Forest, which is just back to normal in a sense. You've got a much more relaxed and peaceful area. You've got a spooky vibe to it at night. But it's nowhere near as menacing as Creepy Castle, for example. It's sort of a softer, spooky level, basically like Mad Monster Mansion. It's spooky, but it's not too spooky. So, we don't actually get the gold banana this time. I think we might have to use the Orangutan because we're a little faster using the Orangutan. We will have to use the Orangutan sprint later on, and that's fairly fiddly. It's a pain in the backside trying to beat the rabbit because, unfortunately, you wound up in a situation where, again, the lag was used to balance the game. Also, interesting to note, the rabbit will actually kill any enemies he winds up touching. Don't get smug with me, mister. Can I cut on the inside? Cutting on the inside. Got the lead. See, takes out Clump fairly easily. We can cut in tight here. Get that. Run, Lanky. Put your hands into it. Lanky Kong, the fastest man on two arms. So we don't get the banana because he conveniently, quote-unquote, wasn't trying. This guy's a jackass. We get a few coins out of it, but that's pretty much what we need to do here. We can hopefully find Tiny if there's a tag barrel nearby. I think it might... There might be one down here. Because, of course, we do need to tag it. Oh, no, there is. And I think there's one back near the start of the area too, but we might as well go in the boss door. We've already got 3 banana medals. So yeah, being able to set up that dual world thing can be used quite well, and it does get used a lot. It allows for those interesting contrasts, but I think some of the best ones are when you don't necessarily have a dual world, but you've still got some noticeable contrasts. Like, as I said, the contrast between Kramer Isle and Kong Isle, the contrast between Crocodile Isle and Donkey Kong Island in DKC 1 and 2, and sort of how things go in Northern Kremisphere, the much more Kremling-dominated area, which has a more mechanical feel to it, compared to some of the more natural setups of the Kong's homeland. There is sort of that interesting contrast between science and nature, and how the Kremlings tend to take things too far. Can be a bit of an issue along the way, in all fairness. We do need definitely to look after the environment. It's perfectly displayed in that sort of technology versus nature thing in Skyward Sword. Actually a really good level of detail, because when Hylia became mortal, Lanaro wound up neglecting himself out of grief, and subsequently wasn't able to look after those all those robots that work the time shift stones and the various mines around the Lanaro region, because he was dead. And as a result of that happening, it's bouncing over it. There we go. Because of that, the robots just kept going completely unimpeded, sending all their advice to a non-existent overseer about how much damage was being done to the environment. Nothing changed. They didn't have the capacity to change things. And basically an inland sea turned into a vast desert. We pick up a strange bean that we'll have to use later, and we can get this for another banana for Tiny. In all honesty, it's really, really tragic, and the music, especially in the Lanaro Sand Sea, really makes it hit home that there has just been so much devastation, so much destruction, almost through complete accident rather than genuine negligence, rather than the sort of destruction quite a few politicians, especially those in my homeland, I have to be honest. I have to get political there. There is absolutely no attempt to care for the environment here. And it really sucks. It honestly really, really sucks. But that tragedy, that interesting duality really hits home. Just the impact of the music as well. It's some of my favourite music because it's so sorrowful. It's speaking of all these disasters that could have been avoided, of a beautiful land utterly wiped out by so many tragedies. It's admittedly done quite well, all things considered. The imagery, the way everything comes together is fantastic. Another banana medal, good work. It honestly is a very beautiful part, and even then there are even more comparisons. You can get that sort of classic fire and ice dichotomy, or fire and water, in quite a lot of levels. Might as well grab these now that we're up here. There is a bonus barrel up there, but we have to do another fly through the rings course. We get to be Superman again. Should probably be chunky for a little bit, because with some creative moving, we can actually wind up getting to Chunky's Kasplat and the battle arena, which are normally accessed at night. Yeah, fire and ice is a fairly common dichotomy, but fire and lightning winds up being one in Pokemon as well. Because you've got, for example, Electabuzz and Magmar. They've been rivals for some time. Interestingly, Jinx was part of the Trinity, but because unfortunately Jinx's design was blackface, basically, let's be honest, to Western audiences it looked like blackface. The Japanese design probably had no concept of what blackface was. It was probably meant to be something different, but the fact was it looked like blackface to Western audiences, and as a result, quite fairly, it had to be changed because it was incredibly insensitive. So Jinx sort of wound up not getting that much of the spotlight, and it's treated as a counterpart to Mr. Mime, as it were. So basically, if we rotate the camera, we stick that landing very, very nicely. Is there a ladder? No, we just drop down here. And disco pose, ready to go. So yeah, Electabuzz and Magmar have had that bit of a rivalry. There is something of a rivalry between... bit of a rivalry in a sense because of their comparative Mega Evolutions being in different versions between Houndour and Manectric. That's kind of a creative one. It's a bit of a stretch, but you also see sort of counterparts such as Flint and Volkman. They're good friends. They wind up teaming up a bit. You can fight them in a double battle in one of the games. And yeah, they are electric specialists and fire specialists respectively, but it's interesting to note that both of them had teams that weren't fully of their type in Diamond and Pearl. For example, Faulkner actually had Octillery and Ambipom on his team, which allowed him a bit of versatility, and Flint only had Infernape and Ponyta because they were the only evolution lines of the fire type in Diamond and Pearl. Really, really not good choices. But there were, say, a couple of other heat-based Pokemon along the way. Now, where is... If I got it right, it's over the other side, isn't it? Probably is easier if I wind up doing that one at night, in all honesty. It's a bit of a shame having to come back here just to get Chunky's Kasplat. Where is it, anyway? Right. Is that it? No, that's... Yeah, I'm going to stop stuffing around, and we'll wind up coming back with... I think it's probably time to go to night after we grab Tiny for a couple of things. But yeah, we can wind up coming back with Chunky at nighttime to get his Kasplat. It's not a big problem, all things considered. We will have to switch to day in the end, though. Let's get going. And... Tag barrel. Is that this one? Just trying to think of who to use. And Chunky's last banana. Yeah, I know which one Chunky's last banana is. We need to actually activate the mill, which winds up being a lot later. We do need to do some stuff with DK, so you know what? We'll grab DK. Stuck that. Not bad. Not exactly sure how long this one's going to be going for, but... we'll probably give it about 5-10 minutes more. Make it a little bit longer. So, shoot this. And it will change to nighttime with a slightly disturbing looking bird. That is, for whatever reason, a punk. So, our clumps and shrooms are replaced by Koshas and the skeleton enemies whose names I've kind of forgotten. We're looking for Banana Port 1. Gonna need to get those lanky bananas. So we can't get in there at nighttime, but we can wind up... There is something we can grab somewhere with DK. Now, where is that pad? Or maybe we have to wind up getting the banana first. There we go. So we've got that. Oh, what was it we had to do? Was it something in Chunky's section? There is something we have to wind up doing to start that mill. Something that makes a music pad appear. It's... Oh, wait, hang on. It's going up here with Lanky, isn't it? Is it going up here with DK? Oh, it's Diddy. Oh, you can tell I'm a little bit rusty, but we might as well go around and get the gold banana in here with Donkey Kong. So yeah, overall, tying into the concept of day and night, I really, really prefer nighttime, if I'm going to be honest. I like shorter days and longer nights. I enjoy just that... I don't know, I just enjoy those cooler days. We have a bit more nighttime, the heat's not as intense, it just feels a bit more relaxing. more opportunities to sit back by the fire, rest for a bit. It's just a personal preference anyway, but it is, to me, fairly soothing. There we are. I think we've got some tiny bananas here. We can do another banana with tiny. But I will at least wrap up by doing everything. I think that's all our banana medals. I'll wrap up by doing DK's challenge in here. Because we actually... Where... Now, I have to find the barrel. Where's the barrel? Because you can't do anything about those fairly blocky looking thorns. Unless you have Strong Kong. The switch is shrouded in those thorns. Is it in here? That's odd. Have I just missed it? Okay, so there's that. It's the melon crate. Is it tucked away in here on the other side? Oh, yes, it is tucked away there on the other side. That was a bit dumb. We can go and get those DK coins up there if you want. But we do need to hit that switch to get inside the barn. Note that zingers are also replaced by those bats. Let's get inside the barn and get ready for our last two challenges. We can find ourselves a banana fairy, and there's a switch to hit on the lower area where we can access the bonus barrel. This one, I believe, moves... That's my gun. It's a lot slower. Wait! Oh, come on! That is some oak level judging right there. That one I missed. But yeah, that first one was just some oak level judging. That's horrible. Overcorrected. You'd think that it's slow moving, so it'd be easy. Yeah, I never should have said it was going to be easy, because that's guaranteeing failure. So there we are, one of the two banana fairies. Where are we? It's over the other side. There we go, we hit this, and... yeah, basically, nighttime... yeah, for some reason this is a green switch. I don't know why. Because... you actually need the Super Simian Slam to get in here. I don't know why, for whatever reason, they decided that you just needed the regular Simian Slam. Maybe it was a mistake, but yeah, I've always preferred night and I've always preferred winter when it comes to seasons. I suppose that's something from growing up in Australia. I don't know why I don't like the heat very much, but it's just one of those things. I don't... and I've tried to get better at it over time, but I still always prefer winter and those short days with lovely cool breezes, and now we have to deal with exploding minecarts. And there are two of them! If you're careful, we'll be able to navigate this. B is slowed down. Oh, that was dumb, that was dumb, that was dumb. I cornered myself. Should have stayed on that inside lane.
Welcome to bonus stage.
Yeah, always been a night person, always been a winter person. I believe that my need to be nocturnal is entirely based on the fact that I don't like hot weather. Out, up, and out. Oh, this could be a problem. Yep, so lap. No, oh, crap. That's right, I have to remember that if you don't actually press a direction, it doesn't keep you on the track you're on, it sends you on the best path to the TNT. Slow down for a bit. For some reason, that one winds up going on the inside. Accelerate. And then we switch inside. Alright, we've basically got them together. Oh my god! No, I didn't want to do that! Now I want to go down this way, thank you. And then I want to go out this way, and I want to go out here, and we've beaten them. If you wind up getting them to travel together for a while, it becomes a lot easier. But there we are, DK's gold bananas are done! DK should have finished pretty much everything. Yep, DK has done everything he needs to in Fungi Forest. Snide, we can only visit during the day, so I'll have to make sure to show that off. I also didn't wind up showing the animation for Gloomy Galleon's banana, so I will wind up cutting that in from the end of the Fungi Forest sessions. But until next time, this is Red 2, returning to base.